Sure. Now, as I said, one of the common elements of all these changes and so on has to do with, right now, with what you have on hand, right? With things we really have on hand. And also the waste, okay? Now, the first thing I suggest for Greece is that you abolish credit cards.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, credit cards.
Huh.
I don't have to tell you, everybody you know has had a rip-off on their credit card. So they're, right? They've had 20 years to get them right, 40 years to get them right. There's still fraud all the time. Everybody's in danger with credit cards, right? People steal them, people, you know, it's just a bad system. But the worst thing about the credit card is, of course, it sucks money out of the country. Every time a dollar changes hands or a euro changes hands, 3% disappears. Well, suppose I pay my merchant with my credit card, and I pay him 10 euros, and then he turns around and pays his supplier the same day. That's 6% of that 10 euros now. You realize that if that 10 euros changes hands 10 times in a week, they take it all. I mean, it's an exaggeration, but you know, there's sucking every time you move money. And these things evolved out of what they called credit cards in the department stores to get people to spend more money. The cards, they would hand out cards with no charges and so on. And look what the banks have turned them into. Not only the 3% that they take every time the money moves anywhere, but the fines, right, for late payment, and just the fees for the cards. Like my cards cost me 4 or 5 euros a month, you know. I mean, it's just draining, and all that money's being drained out of Greece, and it's going to Washington, it's going to London, right? Now, what do you replace it with? Well, that's so easy. Remember this idea of Teddy Roosevelt, right now with what you got on hand. That means off-the-shelf solutions. Okay? This strategy is not a plan. Plans take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Plans usually never work or never totally implemented and so on. We don't have 5 or 10 or 20 years. We have to look around and say, what do we have on hand that we can use right now? And fortunately, voice technology is now perfected on the computer. Voice recognition, it's been perfected for 20 years. So in Greece, instead of a credit card, you'll have a voice account, which there'll be no card. So one, no one can steal your card anymore, right? You don't have to worry about a card or hand it to anyone, or it's gone, right? If you come into Greece at the airport, you pull out your card and say, I'll put 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever, and you put it into your voice account. And you say your name, and they ask you 10 or 15 questions. Where were you born? What was your mother's? You know, those classic questions that only you know the answers to. And then you're in business. You walk into any restaurant, and after you finish, you go up to the thing, or they bring it to you for that matter, bring you a microphone. And say, this is Dan, you know, Dan Gallagher. Oh, hello, Mr. Gallagher. And if there's any doubt, you know, where were you born? What was your mother's name? What was your dog's name, right? And then, that's $32, okay? Okay, it's done. And no 3%. The restaurant gets 100% now. Right? The government pays for this. It costs nothing, this technology, and it's off the shelf. They have the whole thing running in Greece in 90 days, easily. Okay. So now, 3%, 5%, 10% a week, and all this money that's been drained out of Greece, it stays in Greece, right? And all the money that's drained in fraud, you know, the fraud on some of these credit cards goes up into percentage points, 2, 3%. That's also paid for eventually by the consumer. And the membership to have a credit card at 4 or 5 euros a month from every Greek, right? That stays in the country. And it's off the shelf. And it's foolproof. No one can, you can't beat it. You can't cheat it.